Hey guys, if you really like this episode, please support our podcast by going to talkmurder.com/join and becoming a Talko Supremo. Today's story is for one of our very special Talko Supremos, Abby. We are honored to tell her very personal and sad encounter with murder within her own family. A story that took over 20 years to bring to resolution and closure. And it was a resolution at best. If you have a personal story that really hits home, I'd be honored to help you tell yours as well. Email me at john@talkmurder.com. That's JON@talkmurder.com. But for now, let's head to corn country.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talk Murder to Me.
All right, tonight we are going to Cornville, USA.
Where is Cornville?
Iowa.
I guess you're going to ask us that.
We're going to ayahuasca tonight.
Jen, you are correct.
Johnson County, Iowa.
Shout out to all of our Iowonians.
We have a lot
Iowans?
of them. I think Iowans. But Iowonians sounded really cool.
Thank you.
Okay.
You should make that a thing, Jen.
To start, I want to pay homage to the victim of tonight's story by reading a poem.
Yes.
Reading a poem of what she wrote. So if you want to read this, Nicole.
Mother, artist, poet, friend, victim. Loved ones left to wonder who silenced Susan Kersten. Remember me kind, remember the love is so very real. Remember the time was ours. The sun sets on me, the sun sets on you. What's news is that both of us learn God's love lets us be so.
That is from Susan, which I'll be calling Sue because that's what everyone calls her. That's some of the poetry she's written, and I'm going to show you some of the artwork that she has made. She's a very talented artist. This is a very special story tonight, and this story is for one of our Talko Supremos, Abby. This is a personal story for her.
Hey, Abby.
Hey, Abby.
You're going to be hearing a lot from her because we did an interview the other day, and she's going to basically tell you the story.
Cool.
So she was 38 years old at the time that she died, and this is where she died. Go to talkmurder.com to see all the photos for this case.
So this is a sky view of the area, and it looks like there's a lot of farmland and pretty much like one main road.
And
Or is that a railroad track?
No, that's a road.
there's also water surrounding.
Can you tell me about the field, like where it was found?
I believe it's actually a wide open field between, it's kind of off the interstate.
Yeah.
And then the roads that her trailer court was on.
Uh-huh.
It was actually a farmer's, pretty much his land. He has horses and stuff there, but it's kind of like a triangle plot of land, I guess is the best way, because it's between two roads there.
Yeah. Have you ever been there?
But it's, I've driven past, but never there just because it is somebody's property.
Yeah.
But that whole area of Iowa City where she lived, I'm very familiar with it. Yeah.
That's a road right there, and that's an embankment. Now, from this photo right here, you can't see where the body was, but Sue drove a Mercury Sable. Now, we're going to September 24th, 1995. Quote from one newspaper, 10 minutes till midnight.
Didn't we just read a book that was similar title?
Thinking
Midnight
about
Assassin.
112 to Yuma.
Yes.
Oh, the Midnight Assassin.
I was thinking of the Midnight Assassin. I was like, we
That
just
was
did
a
something
really
that was
good
about
case. I got another
midnight.
really good case that someone sent me. Here, let me shout them out right quick.
kind of similar genre.
My dad used to drive a Sable. Those are actually pretty popular in the early 90s, I think.
Oh my gosh! Speaking
We used to
of
drive,
cars,
sit in the back seat and try to everyone fight about riding backwards.
I thought it was Saber at first, and I was like, oh, it's Sable.
Speaking of fun cars that people drive, so we got an awesome Facebook comment. I knew we were going to have somebody who drives this car, but this morning we got a super funny post from Angela who says, I happen to drive a Toyota Yaris. I also think the name is stupid. It has plenty of pep to it. I've driven it over 100 miles. Oh, wait, I have driven it over 100 miles an hour and have passed many a Prius.
Shit.
I have also driven a Pontiac Sunfire like Casey Anthony. Mine was red, though. Hers was white. I would also love to have a VW Bug like Ted Bundy, although mine would have a tie-dye paint job. I'm not so sure what my choice in cars says about me.
I have never encountered someone that was so true crime obsessed they knew all the car models of serial killers. So
You fit right in, Angie.
Angie, thank you so much. That is awesome. I mean, body counts.
I hope I didn't offend you by making fun of the Yaris, but it is a silly name.
Yes.
It just sounds weird.
It's a Japanese car.
I had never heard of it before.
Really? Toyota?
No.
Toyota Yaris?
I've heard of Toyota. I'd never heard of a Yaris
Have
before.
you remember when we saw that sticker that said Toyota? And it was like Yoda.
Speaking of the Midnight Assassin, I had an email from Zachary, and I get a lot of requests for stories, but this one was really, really awesome.
Zach, he Snapchats me sometimes. How's it going, Zach?
Oh.
Okay, so he says it's a New Orleans story that involves an apartment, which was also a voodoo temple,
Ooh.
and it has a toxic drug-fueled romance.
Ooh.
That sounds
So,
good.
Yeah, I'm definitely doing that one for you, man.
If I think
Voodoo. I don't think we've done a voodoo story before, have
I
we?
don't think we have. We did hoodoo.
Yes, we did do hoodoo. Yep.
She was driving a Mercury Sable. Now, this is what you're seeing now, the picture that's a little south of Iowa City. This is about 10 minutes till midnight on what day, Nicole? Very good. Sunday, September 24th, 1995. At first glance, it would seem to anyone that her car simply rolled off an embankment. But you see where the road is right here?
Mm-hmm.
That's the embankment. So the car actually did roll down, but it didn't flip over.
Huh.
And instead, it ended up about half a mile way over here off the picture and was engulfed in flames.
Oh.
The reason I'm saying that is because the killer initially tried to push the car. He put it in neutral, which they found the car in neutral, and the killer pushed it down the embankment, hoping it would flip. He would set it on fire, and then people would think it was just an accident. That was the plan. Okay.
Interesting.
Plausible.
But it didn't flip over, so instead he drove it. He had to drive the car after it went down the embankment about
So
half
now
a
it
mile.
just looks really weird.
Yeah, so and he actually ran over 2 fences and went half a mile in the woods and lit it on fire. Now, from the get-go, this story was a homicide. The police, detectives, and
They weren't buying that from the very beginning.
It's like
the car
this
stuff.
already sounds like this killer's gonna go on World's Dumbest Criminals.
So the Mercury Sable at low speed travels through one fence, goes through one field, and then goes over another fence and into another field and came to a rest near a row of trees. The autopsy showed that Sue died from several blows to the head, not the fire. She was dead before, like I said, the whole thing was staged. The fire dogs, I don't know if that's what they're called. The fire inspection dogs could spot accelerant, so they knew the fire came from inside the cockpit of the car and not in the engine compartment.
Aha.
Dogs are so smart. The body of the 38-year-old mother of 4 had been discovered in a burned-out car, driven off the road and into a field. Authorities soon learned that she had died from several blows to the head.
Okay, so before we start, I want to tell you a little bit about Sue Kersten. She was 38 years old. She was born on July 27th in Iowa City. She did quit school before the 8th grade, and she married at the age of 18 to Roy Kersten. That's how she got her last name. She had 3 children, and she lost a 7-month-old baby due to a heart condition. So, and after that, she started drinking because she went down in this depression spiral, as would be imagine for most people to go through this traumatic event.
Yeah.
Depression sets in. She gets divorced in 1993. She was a very caring and giving person, if you will. Her sister said, quote, Sue was a very spiritual person. She had a lot of friends, no enemies, and she was too good of a person for having enemies. Even the 7-year-old nephew, Kelton, said, quote, Aunt Sue did not deserve to die. She was a nice person. Also, Abby sent a lot of supporting documents because this is actually her aunt. You've been over there quite a few times before this happened. I know you mentioned she had like a Felix the cat clock.
Yes.
And
Funny thing, I was looking through some old pictures with my mom, and it was a Garfield clock. But I remembered Felix for some reason, but it was a
weird.
Garfield clock.
Oh, wow. Was it orange? Garfield's orange, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because we found actually some old pictures, and it was literally what I was seeing in my mind's eye was there on the picture.
Oh, that's crazy. You sure she didn't have two clocks? One of Felix?
No, it was Garfield.
Huh.
I misremembered. Because, I mean, I was 5 when this happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a long time ago. I'm surprised you even remember.
Yeah, she was some of my very first memories, honestly.
Oh, wow.
Very, very vivid memories of going over there and hanging out with her.
So here's some of the artwork that that the victim, Sue Kersten, drew.
Oh,
She's
that's
very,
so
very
pretty.
talented.
Oh, wow.
This is Abby right here
Aw.
with her aunt, Sue. Here's some more of her artwork. She's very
Oh,
talented.
that's cool.
Wow.
That's
She
pretty
drew
good.
that?
Yeah, I thought that was a real photo.
Wow.
That's actually a drawing. You know, it
Wow.
reminds me of the Moonshiner,
Yes.
Popcorn Sutton. Yeah. Do you possess any of the talent that she does or she did with the art? Because, I mean, I look through her art and it's literally amazing.
Yeah, she could work with any medium.
Yeah. The Whispering
medium.
Secrets art that she
Yes.
did, I was like, man, I could definitely see that and like
Yes.
framed up somewhere.
Yep. I have one of her original drawings downstairs, and it's called Whining Rose.
Mm-hmm.
Like whining and crying.
Mm-hmm.
But I have that framed up, and it's downstairs. I'm somewhat artistic. I didn't really follow that path. I have a lot of artists in my family.
Yeah.
My mother is very talented. My brother, my sisters, and I, we've got a little bit here and there. We just kind of dabble with it. So I guess, yeah, we all have a little bit of artistic skills.
Okay, so this case largely went unsolved, even though the family, including Abby, knew the entire time who the killer was. There's only 2 suspects in this case the entire time, and one of them was quickly ruled out. For the
They
suspect,
just didn't have enough to nail him for
the thing that broke this case almost 20 years later is Cold Justice. It's a TV show.
I've seen that show.
They came down to Iowa and kind of not telling anyone they were there and re-interviewed a lot of the people in the area.
I had no idea that they were even in town.
Oh, wow. I thought it'd be like a big thing, everyone's talking about it.
Well, that's the thing is they had to keep everything hush-hush.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Re-interviewing people and all of this. Since I was so young, I wasn't, I guess, I wasn't very helpful for any information that I could provide them, but I really wish I would have been able to meet them. I'm forever indebted to them.
They went through all the case files and stuff like that, and that show actually brought an arrest recently within the last few years,
Wow.
and the man responsible is in prison now, who I'm going to get to in a second. There's 2 suspects. Bob Gump, he was a neighbor and a friend of Sue. They would actually go to each other's house and smoke pot and stuff like that. I guess that's what you do in Iowa. I mean, nothing wrong with that. His alibi was that he was drinking at the bar and he was 15 minutes away. He's an alcoholic and he's very abusive as well, as we'll talk about. But his alibi was he's drinking at the bar 15 minutes away until 10:30 p.m.
I do know my mom had spoken about him because he does have a shady past, domestic violence, and he's an alcoholic. And that was actually his saving grace, is that he was sitting on a bar stool plastered and came home.
Yeah.
That was his alibi, and it proved him innocent.
Yeah,
But
and I think his wife, right? His wife was at home.
Yes.
Or his girlfriend or something, and she...
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the whole reason he was kind of eliminated, is because he was an alcoholic. I mean, I knew he had a mean streak in him. And my mom had also let me know that the reason they all thought it was Bob was because my aunt, for some reason that I don't know, had called DHS on him. I don't know if it was for, I don't know if he has kids. I don't know if it was for his wife. I'm not sure. But my Aunt Sue had actually called DHS on him. And since he's so angry and violent, that was instantly who they thought of.
Yeah. I wonder if that hurt the case at first.
I think it did. I think it distracted him. Mm-hmm.
Now, Sue and Bob never, they weren't dating or anything, right? They were just neighbors?
Yeah.
Okay.
My understanding is, I mean, they would hang out every now and then. I guess they would smoke pot together, just kind of acquaintances, but nothing more than just friendship.
The other suspect who is currently incarcerated is Steve Klein. Steve Klein is the father of Sue's 15-month twin girls.
Okay.
Okay, so Abby was telling me that twins actually run in her family a lot. I believe she said there's 3 sets of identical twins in her family lineage. Yeah.
My cousin was 17, Jason, and then my older cousin Sandy was 19, and she had 1.5-year-old identical twin girls.
I used to think that I wanted twins because it would be convenient and then you can be done having kids. But now I'm like, no, I'm all set with that.
Hell no.
I don't think so. Twice the food, twice the poop, twice the crying. No.
You can be like that one lady that had like 8 kids at the same time.
No.
Octomom.
All
Man,
in
that
her
was
belly.
a big thing
All those
back
kids
when
were
that
in her
happened.
belly
No.
at the same time?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's impossible.
I
She had
mean-
8 people in her body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like a spider giving birth.
No, spiders I'm pretty sure have more than 8
what
babies.
the fuck was that on the Facebook where that seahorse was spurting out them baby seahorses?
Yeah, who put that on there?
That was fucking
I think that was
gross.
Amy.
That was disgusting. I literally...
that must have been a male. Don't the males?
males
have
what the
babies?
fuck?
Male
Yeah.
seahorses reproduce. It's true.
Bullshit.
Ask Megan,
Look
our
it up.
aquatic
That
life
seahorse
expert.
had a vagina.
No,
they were coming out of his vagina.
No, it came out of his belly button.
His belly button.
I mean,
He
essentially.
was thrusting though.
Yeah, that's what women do with their vaginas.
No. I think you have it backwards.
No.
That shit was coming out of that girl's vagina.
It was,
It was a male.
No, it wasn't. I can promise you.
Megan?
Male.
No.
Megan,
Megs.
No.
Megs. Tell us. Tell us. Put John in his place, please.
He was the father of those 2 twins, which are still alive. In the trailer that Sue lived in, there was blood on the chair. I mean, she was killed in that trailer. She was put into her own car.
Oh, she was killed before she got in the car.
And then she was driven. I mean, you saw the overhead. It wasn't that far.
right?
It was probably a mile or so to this little embankment, and then that's where the crime scene was staged. But she was killed right there in her chair in her own home
How did he kill her?
with a blunt object. She had 2 blunt object strikes to her head. So Steve was obviously the last person to see her alive. And
Yes.
what other evidence did they have? I mean, there was blood, I believe, on the couch and the phone cord, and then, he was with her, the last person. But as far as a jury would want, like, what was there any other evidence besides that?
Well, there was 2 Afghan blankets, which is just a crocheted blanket.
Mm-hmm.
She would make those too.
Yeah.
But there was 2 Afghan blankets that she would always have draped over the back of her recliner. Every single picture that I own of, her house, those blankets are there. Those blankets were gone.
Oh.
And the phone cord was on the ground, and Steve's cover up for the phone cord being on the ground was that one of the 1.5-year-old twins was playing with the phone cord and ripped it out. that's a very flimsy excuse.
Yeah. For real.
Other than that, there was some blood, very, very small blood spatters on the recliner that she was in. And then, I mean, since the house is gone, I'm not sure about anything like on the walls or the floor. I don't know about any of that. There were remnants of burned up Afghan or knitted material in the car, which they should have, drawn a conclusion that they're missing from the place and they're in the house or in the car. Why are they here? Why are they burned? I mean, to me, that's pretty significant. But because of the fire, there really wasn't a ton of evidence.
Steve Klein is definitely 100% the killer, and he is in prison now. I want to say he was the last person to see her alive. He was actually at the home right before the murder happened, the only one at the home. And the reason that this case finally got solved is because the sister of Sue came out with new information. And I was asking Abby about it. When it happens, you think little information probably isn't important, but this little bit of information actually broke the whole case. She had called Sue, her sister, right before she was murdered. Okay.
Really?
And
wow,
she heard Steve in the background, Steve Klein.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yeah. And then she heard Steve Klein in the background, and then she heard her sister whisper something, and then the phone goes dead. Now, when the cops get to the house, they notice that the phone cord was ripped out of the phone. So
Whoa.
that did make sense.
And she knows him. Like, she recognizes his voice.
Yeah. I believe it was Sue's sister was talking to her on the phone around 8 or something like that. And then the phone, she had whispered something. And do you have any idea what that might have been? Like,
I don't. And that's actually what broke the case. It's I believe my second cousin. It was my aunt's cousin, Pam. She was speaking on the phone with Sue. And not until Cold Justice came to town and re-interviewed everybody did she mention that she was on the phone with Sue when she had whispered something and then the phone went dead. That was what Pam had told the investigators, and that's instantly what led them to it's absolutely Steve. There's no doubt about it.
Did they not interview her before? I feel like
I'm not sure. I would assume so. It's really hard to think of all of the little things that could be pertinent to a case in the moment.
Yeah, I get you. Oh, that makes sense.
I don't know if Pam was interviewed. I'm assuming she probably was, but she didn't. I don't know. She didn't make the connection. I'm not sure.
That's crazy. Yeah. So
I try to not harbor bad feelings towards her for it, just because I've kind of been in a similar situation.
Yeah. Plus, Steve Klein was a volunteer firefighter, and he has actually admitted to a former friend before this murder even took place that she came on record and said that he knows how to dispose of a body. So
he may have killed more.
Yeah, I think he may have killed more than one. And he went through how you would put an accelerant like gasoline in the car and light it on fire and stuff like that. So he said he knows how to dispose of a body.
Interesting.
Of a body. Now, I do want to say Steve Klein did have a motive. Remember I said that they had the 15-month twin girls. They were in a custody dispute. He basically didn't want to pay her $300 a month in child support, and this murder was based on $300 a month. That's why he murdered her. As far as a motive, the child support, that's a pretty big motive. $300 a month, I believe it was.
Yeah. And measly $300 is why she was killed.
But then, taking care of the children is going to cost him way more than $300 a month.
So Steve actually met Sue in an AA meeting. You remember how I said she lost her 7-month-old daughter? And she started drinking because depression and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So she ends up going to AA, and that's where Steve and her meet. Now, this
Okay.
is after her divorce. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, they were only together for about 6 months, I believe, and then she gets pregnant with his twins.
I had asked my mom recently about it. I said, how long were Steve and Sue together? And my mom said they weren't even technically dating. They had known each other for about 2 weeks, and
Oh,
then Sue
really?
found out she was pregnant.
Oh,
Yes.
wow. Okay.
So I think that's why he's able to distance himself so much with the girls and us and not feel any guilt about keeping them from us because he never really knew us.
Yeah.
So
And before this happened, Susan had filed a civil action lawsuit against Steve for that $300 a month. And $300 for a month for 2 babies is not a lot.
No,
No,
it's
not
So
not.
for someone to murder someone over that small of amount is just kind of ridiculous.
I mean, especially when you think, I know that this is 20 years ago and inflation takes place, but when I think about, we sell diapers at work,
Mm-hmm.
and a case of diapers, and this is like a wholesale size, is like, that'll run you between $30 and $50. Like, which is crazy.
Because you go through them.
Exactly.
Crazy.
And you have to double that if you have twins.
Can
That's
you wash them?
$100. If
I
you
mean,
have
if you-
reusable ones, if you have cloth ones, you can, but who wants to deal with that?
I would just let them run around butt-ass naked.
And then have them poo and pee all over your house.
It'd be like having
I
a
teach them how to
dog.
go out the doggy door, just like,
Oh my God.
what? Oh,
Babies don't know how to crawl yet.
You can't just throw them out the doggy door window. It doesn't work that way.
they can learn how to pee outside, just like I pee outside all the time.
Babies
I
can't
learned.
move that sort of, babies don't even crawl until they're several months old. Until they're
Yeah, they can't even support their own head weight until they're like 4 months.
6
5-6 months. I
Are
don't
they
have kids. I
crawling?
don't know. But
I have that.
also,
Yeah, that's a totally
like-
effing made up number. I don't understand.
But
Yeah.
what about in the old days? All right,
They-
caveman
cloth.
days.
We've
Caveman days. They were
evolved.
walking around butt-ass naked, and it worked fine for them. They fertilized all the flowers out
Oh,
there.
okay.
No,
So you
that's
think
the
we should do
bees.
everything like we did
the
in the
bees
cave
fertilize
days?
the flowers.
I say if I had a kid, I'd let him walk around butt naked and poo
It's
everywhere.
so good that you don't want children.
Okay, so I told you that Cold Justice actually solved the case. Basically, they did. So this is from the Gazette in Cedar Rapids. This is from the 21st of August, 2015. The title is Show Helps Crack Old Murder Case. TNT's Cold Justice. TNT, is they're still around?
Yeah, I think so.
TNT.
We had continued working on it, and we weren't getting anywhere. Johnson County Sheriff Lonnie Polarabrick.
Polarabrick. You always get the hardest names to read.
Polarabrick.
Polarabrick.
Well, I'm not drunk.
when you're part of an ongoing investigation, you can't just freely talk about things.
Yeah.
That was the hardest. And especially when the actual Cold Justice episode came out, I don't know if it was the prosecution, my whole family was, anybody who had been questioned or interviewed was told, you cannot watch this.
Oh, wow.
You can't be biased or swayed in one direction or the other by watching any of this information until he goes to trial.
Mm.
So I could watch this, but I couldn't talk to anybody about it.
Mm.
I did watch it when it first came out, and I bawled just knowing that that son of a bitch was arrested, and it's forever caught on film.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can go back and replay that as many times as I want to see them put those cuffs on him.
You remember, what's that one show that men watch all the time?
That men watch.
What the fuck is it? It's not TNT. It's
Spike?
Spike. Yeah. Yeah, how'd you know that one?
Girls watch it too. It's just
It's a channel just designed for
I
guys.
don't even know. I don't know if that one is around anymore. I used to watch MXC on that. It's like American Ninja Warrior. Except
Yeah.
it was Japanese and it was all
Yeah.
dubbed over.
Oh my god, that's funny.
It was hilarious. And
The Total Wipeout, I think, is on there too. Total Wipeout. Or
yeah.
The article goes on to say that, quote, this was a sort of last-ditch effort, which actually was like a Hail Mary, but that worked.
What was the hell?
The show, getting the show.
Oh,
Because
gotcha.
And I'll link the show on talkmurder.com. It's on one of these weird video sharing sites.
Okay.
It's kind of like Vimeo, but like Daily Motion, I think, or whatever.
They did have Cold Justice on one of the streaming services recently. I think it was Netflix.
But I'll embed that on talkmurder.com. It's actually a really good episode. I was really impressed at the people that ran it because basically you got these detectives, this female detective, she's a badass, and she goes down to Iowa and she starts cracking skulls. Basically, they start opening books and cracking skulls, and they solve this thing real quick.
Yeah, it's
wow.
it's a team of two, and one of them is like a crime scene expert, and the other one is some other type of expert, and they usually enlist the help of the police department.
Again, we're reading from the Gazette, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, 21st August 2015.
Authorities said Cold Justice crew arrived July 7th in Iowa City, and the work began on July 9th. On July 17th, the sheriff's office announced the arrest of 54-year-old Stephen Klein on account of first-degree murder for the death of Kersten. He's set for a November trial. Wow, that was freaking fast.
Yeah, no shit, right?
So when that's kind of pathetic, though, if it took, and I don't mean that in a mean way, but that's kind of pathetic that it took them 10 days and it was a cold case for 20 years?
And it's not really a cold case because they knew who did it. Everyone knows who did it.
But that's kind of crazy that it took, it only took 10 days for someone from the outside to go solve this.
Exactly.
But I guess a fresh set of eyes helps.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that it took that long to get them out there.
I asked Abby, because I knew from the get-go that she didn't really feel any justice done for her aunt's murder. And this is going to sum it up perfectly for you guys. The title of this is Iowa City Press Citizen. Slain woman's daughter says, Klein deal, quote, a twisted form of justice. The bottom line is he took an Alford plea. So it's basically
like the guy from the staircase?
Yeah, the staircase guy.
No.
So basically how that works, which is they should just get rid of that altogether, but all the evidence says you're guilty, but you don't admit you're guilty, but you still serve prison time.
He was given an Alford plea, which is he's pleading to being guilty and knowing that there is enough evidence to find him guilty. It's just taking a plea deal.
Yeah, and that's
it's hard to argue with it.
They literally need to get rid of that Alford plea or whatever. We've done one case like that. It's like, well, I'm not going to say I'm guilty, but I can, I agree that all the evidence makes me look extremely guilty. So I'll take 15 years. Like, oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah.
And
it's pointless.
It is pointless because it doesn't the family doesn't get any comfort. You got I believe you got 15 years in prison.
Yep.
That's not that's almost a slap in the face. If that was my family.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. I would be pissed.
And my understanding, I haven't dived too deep into what actually an Alford plea, involves, but I think my understanding is that, the prosecution and the detectives and everybody are supposed to speak with the family. This is what we're thinking. Is this okay with you guys? What are your thoughts? They didn't do that with us.
Oh, wow.
They completely blindsided us when we heard he's taking an Alford plea for subverting a jury, willful injury, and I believe the other charge was arson.
A Mount Pleasant man will spend 15 years in prison for the 1995 death of an Iowa City woman, but some in her family were critical of his plea deal, her daughter calling it a twisted form of justice.
If it wasn't for the second suspect, who else would it be?
Well, that's not enough either way to put somebody in prison.
Right.
Like, you have to have evidence that does it. So I'm assuming that that's what this case files people did, is that they found the quote smoking gun or whatever it is that made it so it was Steve.
Mm-hmm.
The way she was telling me is like, Steve took custody of them, right? Because, he killed the mom.
Right.
So if you take custody of your two daughters, you're going to raise them to think that the other side of the family is batshit crazy and they're just trying to blame you even though you didn't do it.
Right.
So I asked her, I was like, even now today, can they still look at their dad in the face, even though he's behind bars for killing Sue? Can they really say that this asshole is innocent, even though it's your dad? Would you ever be close to them? And I know you said you tried to reach out, I believe.
Yeah. I would be there for them. As strange as it is to say, I mean, we're strangers.
Yeah.
We share the same blood and the same DNA, but we're complete strangers. They obviously were taken into Steve's custody, and, you know, he and his family had raised them, and they raised them to think that we were all bad.
Yeah.
You know, he had nothing good to say about our entire side of the family, just so they would keep their distance. And actually, when they were in high school, they were in the same high school as one of my twin sisters. So she would see them in passing, and I believe she actually tried to speak with them, and I don't think they wanted anything to do with it.
Do they still believe in their father's innocence, do you think?
I'm not sure. I don't know how they could think anything different.
That's just really sad, because you would think that an event like this would bring the family together. you know? So I feel you, Abby. Unless you don't want to be close to your family, then that's cool too. Not everyone does.
It reminds me of that staircase thing too.
Yeah. But with the staircase is different because
there's reasonable doubt.
There's reasonable doubt. This is like obvious. I mean, because the staircase, she could have fell down the stairs, or that owl could have clawed the shit out of her. The owl theory.
I don't know. That owl theory is pretty compelling,
It is
actually.
compelling.
Yeah, if you're a Tacos Primo, we did a whole episode on owl theory.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, that is plausible that he didn't even kill her, but someone killed Sue because number one, she had blunt force trauma. And
it was
her
no
car
accident. It was deliberate murder.
Exactly. Yeah. And Steve actually was found guilty for arson, for fucking arson, and not first-degree murder.
Well, wasn't he a firefighter?
Exactly. So he basically admitted to the arson.
What did his feet look like?
What?
The arsonist has oddly shaped feet. Anchorman! Anchorman! Come on, guys. Get with it. Come on now.
Yeah, so how I imagine it is this. Okay, so he gets in there and denies everything because there's not a lot of evidence, right? The sister says 21 years later...
She heard him.
And, memories... What's it called? Memories, frailty.
Memories all alone in the moonlight. That's coming out in theaters.
So her sister comes out 21 years later and says that he was in the house. He's probably like, I wasn't even in the house. Okay? And then there's no DNA evidence, like his blood or anything, in the trailer. And plus, like, he basically lived there anyway, so his DNA's all over the place. You know what I'm saying? And he actually had an excuse with the phone cord. He said one of the twins, the 15-month-old twins, ripped it out.
The phone cord was on the ground, and Steve's cover-up for the phone cord being on the ground was that one of the 1.5-year-old twins was playing with the phone cord and ripped it out. That's a very flimsy excuse.
Yeah, for real, if you can believe that. So...
No, I don't believe that.
Here's what I'm saying.
Phone cord should not be accessible to babies.
The evidence is kind of weak in this case.
Agreed, it is.
So
I guess that's why they made it available for him.
Yeah, because, I think any good prosecutor, I don't know. It just seems...
Getting jail time is better than getting it dismissed because there's reasonable doubt.
So it's probably like, all right, you could go fight this.
And then you can't retry
in the
him.
court, and you may get life in prison. Or you may get off scot-free. Or you could take this 15-year deal and not worry about getting life in prison and get out when you're, 65 or 70 or whatever?
Yeah.
That's what he did. It's 15 years. You go to prison and, work out a bunch, get in shape.
I guess I get Abby's perspective and the family's perspective of it feels like injustice, but I'm glad he at least got 15 years from this versus some of the other cases that we've done. Like, people are walking home scot-free. Like that freaking killer in,
Canada.
South America, too, is what I was thinking.
Oh.
Oh, La Bestia.
Like the jail time is even less.
La Bestia.
Yeah.
Sandy, she was given the opportunity to read her victim impact statement, which is typically what they do for anybody of, a victim. Sometimes it's denied, but regardless, she was given the right to read her impact statement to him in court. And she loves God, and she looked him in the eye, or she asked him, "Will you look me in the eye?" And he refused. He sat there with his head down the whole time while she forgave him.
Oh, wow.
She forgave him in a packed courtroom, and he didn't have the balls to even look at her.
Yeah.
Speaks volumes about his character.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do you think your life would have been different if none of this happened? And your family's life?
I think it would be tremendously different.
Better? Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. It's definitely tore my family apart in one way or another. Each person's been affected, and yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I get that the family is pissed about the Alford plea, but I'm glad that they got jail time for him just because there was such a lack of physical evidence. It's really, they got 15 years just based on one person's account 20 years later. Right. So not that I get that that's not like a total victory in the family's eyes, but after hearing some of the cases that we've covered, I'm glad that dude's facing some hard jail time.
If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button on whatever podcasting app you used. If you like this story, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you're absolutely obsessed with this podcast and want to become our stalker, go to talkmurder.com/join. Become a Taco Supremo. Get a badass t-shirt, sticker, swag, a lot of love. Shout it out all over the place. Tell me what story you want me to do. I'll research it, dedicate it to you on the Talk Murder Me podcast. My name is John, here with Jen and Nicole. And until next time, good night, you lovely, lovely people.